Hey, all my Scorpio friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today to go over the year 2025. Month by month, I have pulled out some aspects that I think are most influential throughout the year, and I want to give you an opportunity to prepare for that. So I think this is going to be pretty cool because your fifth house of romance is being lit up for a lot of this year, especially the first half of the year. So let me take you back on a little story. At the end of 2024, which is when I'm filming this right now, your ruling planets have been in an opposition. Pluto, first in Capricorn in the fall of 2024, opposed Mars as it transited through Cancer. And then Pluto moved into Aquarius and Mars moved into Leo, and they opposed each other as Mars went retrograde. The exact opposition was at 1 degree Leo, 1 degree Aquarius on December 31st, 2024. I have a lot of numbers in my head right now, so give me a moment. I just came off a Mercury retrograde. This is super significant because Leo rules personal pleasure and fun, and Aquarius rules independent thinking. And there's a little bit of a fight going on here. Now, I bring this up because the beginning of the year, we're still feeling this transit. And I think that you're going to feel it because it involves both of your ruling planets. So, whatever has been brewing underneath the surface of your awareness, that psychological, I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy enough, is going to, Pluto wants to bust that up. So, that's important to know. And as we start the year, Mars is retrograde, still in Leo, like at 0 degrees. So the first week it'll move back into Cancer. We will see in January, we're going to see the nodes shift into the Pisces Virgo axis. Again, Pisces is your fifth house, Virgo is your 11th house. The fifth house is really where all the fun happens. It's where we first encounter our sexual, romantic relationships. It's where we discover our own talents and how people respond to them. It's where we have fun and where we laugh, where we conceive children, and we go to comedy shows. And Pisces is going to be jam-packed this year. Now, as the nodes go through the Pisces Virgo axis, there's also this hint of suffering on this axis because it's very much connected to your health and to your mental health. Pisces being more about delusion, illusion, fantasy. But at the same time, it's extremely creative and imaginative and compassionate and empathetic. So as the north node is going to go into your fifth house of romance, and the south node is going to go into Virgo, which is your 11th house of your hopes and your dreams. Yes, it's also the house that rules the World Wide Web and the internet and your nervous system and the future and technology. But here I'm really thinking it has something to do with being egoless to looking to the future in order to trust what you're building in your fifth house. And I also think that the North Node is stretching for the divinity versus the delusion within your fifth house. So this is giving you an opportunity to experience love from a more authentic place because you're more willing to be authentic. And the nodes are going to go through the Pisces Virgo axis until, I don't want my notes on another page, give me a second, until July 26, 2026. So they spend about 18 months in each sign. So this is very, very powerful for you. Again, fifth house, 11th house access lit up for a lot of this year. We will see Uranus move direct in Taurus. Taurus is your seventh house of partnerships. Uranus moved into that house in 2017, and it spends about 7 years in that, depending upon retrogrades, give or take. And it's going to move into Gemini in a few months. So it's really kind of experiencing the last degrees of the Taurus energy. Venus, Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node will all start coming together in your fifth house of Pisces. Venus rules romance. Venus rules your self-worth. Venus rules your money and your possessions, and your partnerships. How you there's the give and take. Saturn rules an enduring, sustainable situation. It can initially infuse fear and repression and limitation, but that's all part of Saturn's process of having you determine whether or not something is actually aligned to you and sustainable over time. Neptune is an opportunity to be very, very creative and very romantic, but Saturn's going to be in a conjunction with Neptune. So these two are reaching for the divinity, the soul connection, the alignment. And then we can go off into dreamland. Okay, now let's go into February. Jupiter will move direct in Gemini. Gemini is your 8th house. This is a significant house because it's a house you naturally rule. So it has a lot to do with money, power, control. It has to do with sex. It has to do with banking and finance, inheritances, taxes. Now we overlay this Gemini energy. There is how you think, how you speak, how you engage in the media, how you get your information. It also rules your siblings. So you may find as Jupiter moves direct in Gemini that you rewrite something about maybe your relationships with your siblings, maybe your beliefs shift a bit, or you just start to realize that, like yourself, some people don't shift that easily. And so you're willing to sort of kumbaya something. Jupiter's very much about good luck and expansion. And while Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini, Jupiter is a natural world traveler. So the challenge for Jupiter here in Gemini is to look at the details of the human experience in everyday life versus sitting up on the mountain and what is conceptually possible versus what is actually possible. So as it moves direct, it's going to revisit some things that it's already experienced. Mars will move direct in Cancer, and Cancer is your 9th house. This is a house where it's really a business house. It's a lot of business goes on, branding, marketing, publishing, writing. There's higher education in that house. There's travel in that house. But when I look at it as Cancer, this feels as if I'm connecting with my intuition, the nurturing part of me, maybe even learning more about natural healing. Mars wants to take action very quickly. And in Cancer, Mars has to be more aware of how other people are responding. Mars is in fall in Cancer. And yet Mars has been going through a series of experiences over the last few years, which has made Mars realize that it wants to support the hero version of Mars versus the harsh, angry warrior. So here, as Mars moves direct, it's getting an opportunity to revisit how the nurturing experience, potentially the mother, affected how you receive nurturing and how you receive love and how you believe in your own intuition. Personally, I believe that Scorpio is the most intuitive sign of the whole zodiac. And because they're suspicious on the lower end and a little manipulative, that's exactly why they're so intuitive, because they just pay attention and then they kick into a natural talent. So anyway, I kind of went off there, but Mars again is a co-ruling planet for you. And so I think it's important as Mars moves direct in Cancer and is about to go into another opposition with Pluto, your co-ruling planet, there's something to be garnished here about your nurturing experience as you were raised. We have a stellium in Pisces now, a true full-blown, the sun, the moon will traverse through Pisces in late February and March. We have Mercury in there, we have Venus, we have the North Node, and this is so much energy in your 5th house. If you don't find something, either if you don't birth a part of yourself that's super creative, like if you're a comic and you don't get up on stage, it would be a crime during this time. If you're a musician and you don't write love songs at this time, it would be a crime. If you want to be in love, if you hang on to your BS, it would be really sad because it would be a crime. Okay, I think I've covered that. March, we see our first eclipses of 2025. We'll see our full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, and we'll see the last new moon solar eclipse in Aries. Virgo, again, is your 11th house. Aries is your 6th house of work, of health, mental health, everyday activities, your daily activities. That house is ruled by Mars, and right now Mars is still transiting through Cancer. So be mindful of frustrations, old resentments, and how they affect you. First, getting you hot, and then how that might play out. It also potentially could have you really starting to plug into an awareness about your Cancerian energy, and meaning not your personal, but how you experienced your mom, or the nurturing element, the maternal energy. And it could be a moment of reconciliation where you understand that this is now a tool that sharpens your sword. Neptune will enter Aries, your 6th house, and Neptune will move in and just tip its toe into Aries before it retrogrades. The last time that Neptune moved into Aries, it was around 1862. It takes Neptune 164 years to traverse the Zodiac. So this is really, for me, a signaling of the spiritual warrior. And at the same time, this first whoosh of Neptune is going to feel a little uncomfortable. I think it's going to create a lot of steam. We also see Venus and Mercury retrograde in Pisces in your 5th house. So here we go, a revisit. This could even bring up old situations, old partners, old lovers could show back up to, kind of have a last go around. Who knows? Maybe it's a reconciliation. In April, Mercury and Venus will be in the stellium with Saturn and the North Node, and they'll be moving direct in Pisces. That North Node is going to make for a really exaggerated desire, a desire to remove whatever's getting in your way so that you can experience sort of this magical energy. And I kind of tend to think that it's going to be Scorpio focused, meaning even if it's a love affair and a romance, or it could be the conception of a child. I didn't even bring that up. That didn't even hit me at the time. That 5th house energy could be very empowering for you in the future, because up until now, being the only sign that's ruled by such challenging planets, the planets are challenging because they're asking you to dig deep to your truth. And humans, put up facade after facade, mask, blah, blah, and it just doesn't work in the Scorpio energy. So I really think that as these planets go direct, you have an awesome opportunity to, I want to say, make magic. We also see April, Mars re-enters Leo. Now it goes into that opposition with Pluto in Aquarius. But at the same time, now Mars is in a fire sign, and it likes to be in a fire sign. It rules a fire sign. So this could, be a time when, the push-pull of Pluto and Mars's opposition could actually end up working in your favor, because something could metaphorically end that gives you freedom to be more yourself. Mars in Leo. Leo, your 10th house of career, of public status. When we think of public status, we think of our reputations. People think we're good or we're bad? But it's also, the 10th house is a house where people see there's a change in your life, like you get married, or you get divorced, or you conceive a child and you become a parent, or you become a parent again. So all those possibilities are up there, plus a whole bunch more. All right, in May, Saturn will enter Aries and join Neptune in this new energy. Now, I believe that, a lot of astrologers talk about a push-pull when it comes to Saturn and Mars, because Saturn wants to slow things down. Mars wants to move things forward very quickly. Mars rules Aries. Mars rules you. I think that this is a synergistic relationship. I think it's cooperative. As Saturn enters Aries, it is as if there is it's like an exchange program. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, where Saturn rules. So when Saturn comes into Mars's house of Aries, Mars pulls out the fine china and sets up a nice experience for Saturn. But at the same time, it's very focused on leadership, on the self, on amassing something. It's more the hero energy here. So as we have now this Neptune conjunction, this is the peaceful warrior. This is like David Carradine in Kung Fu, you know. You don't see him coming, but if he has to, he'll kick your ass. We will also see Saturn entered Aries and joined Neptune in that house. Now we have Pluto retrograding in May from 3 degrees of Aquarius to 1 degree. I'm sorry, yes, from 3 to 1 degrees of Aquarius until October. So this is going to be a revisit, and it's going to square any of you that are early born Scorpio rising. And if you have any planets in the sign of Scorpio in your first house or your 12th house, depending if you want to look at your personal chart in Placidus, I think that's important. While this is based on whole sign, don't want to confuse you. Sorry, I run off. But this is important because, you know, Pluto retrograding is going over something where Pluto is fine-tuning, looking for those little nooks and crannies where you've given up your sense of self and independence, and it squares the Scorpio energy. So Aquarius is naturally your 4th house of home. So something is going to come up. And we saw that we have Mars in Cancer, right? So Mars was looking at the maternal energy. Now we have Pluto in the 4th house of your home, kind of giving you an opportunity to rebirth that experience, rebirth your version of it, your view of it. And it could be literally where you create a home that's so amazing, or it could be a psychological integration where you turn your trauma to wisdom. Okay. Now, after Pluto's retrograde, we go to June, and Saturn is conjunct Neptune the whole time, pretty much, because they're slowing down to retrograde. So they're literally starting to station in the sky. Again, Aries is your 6th house. And I want to offer this because this is a house of enslavement. Like you're mentally enslaved, you're physically enslaved, your health is enslaved. So if you've been hot about something, if you've been, you know, feeling like, you know, the universe isn't working for me, man, what's going on here? I think it's just the opposite. And as you surrender to whatever fears you might have, and then control that you're trying to stop those fears, you know, like I'm going to control those fears. The surrender of them will allow the integration of them, which then give wisdom to them, which will then release them inadvertently. Because Saturn and Neptune in Aries is somewhere creating something where you need to address how you're thinking and then how you're treating your physical apparatus. We'll also see Saturn in Aries square Jupiter in Gemini for the 3rd time. This happened back in 2024. And these two planets are heading into trines as we go later into the year. So whatever tensions they create, it's giving you an opportunity to capitalize on something that you are not aware of. I think that's what Pluto's really bringing up for you, is there's something psychologically underneath the hood that you think you've covered, but you haven't, and you're still making your decisions based on that. So when we look at Gemini, Gemini is your 8th house of transformation. Jupiter is about my spiritual beliefs, the connection to my religious beliefs, and my expansion thereof, my broadening, my, you know, being more diverse. And sometimes with the fixed signs, that diversity is not as easy to attain because they like what they know and they get used to that fixed energy. So that can be a little challenging. That square is also going to, because Saturn is in Aries and Mars co-rules Aries, there's a feeling of Saturn being very powerful as well in wanting to be a leader, in wanting to, you know, you wanting to lead through your history, okay? Saturn rules history. And the square is Jupiter saying, move past it. be like Mercury, move on, take a bit of the information that you need. Don't chew on the whole story. Jupiter will also in June enter its exaltation in Cancer. Cancer is again your ninth house. This could be really good for business endeavors. It can also be good, as I said, when Mars was transiting through that, to coming to some reconciliation about self-care, nurturing the maternal, and even a feminine energy, how you perceive the feminine. I think of the feminine not as two boobs and a vagina. I think of it as receptive energy. I hate to be crass, but I'm pretty sure you Scorpios can handle that. All right, let's go on to July because we're going to see 3 planets retrograde. We're seeing, I told you that Neptune was going to retrograde and Saturn was going to retrograde. They've been stationing at those early degrees of your 6th house of Aries, and now they're moving. First, Neptune on July 4th will move from 2 degrees Aries back into your 5th house of Pisces to 29 degrees, and that will happen until December 10th. Then Saturn will follow a week later on the 13th and will retrograde from 1 degree of Aries to 25 degrees of Pisces until November 28th, 2025. And Mercury will retrograde on July 18th until August 11th from 15 degrees of Leo to 4 degrees of Leo, meaning Mercury will come into an opposition with Pluto for the second time. And we'll cover those in more detail in the monthlies because this is kind of the broad strokes here. Okay. When 3 planets are retrograde, it always sort of gives us a real large opportunity to review. And with these particular planets, while they are not necessarily, they're not having a conversation amongst them. I mean, Neptune and Saturn are, but with Mercury retrograding at the same time, there's something about revisiting the way I think, the way I speak, the kind of media that I absorb, the people I hang around with, my roommates, my teammates, my workmates, the people working on the project with me. There's going to be something to review about that. And it just and that retrograde in your 10th house of career. So you may be revisiting some things about that and planning new things. Uranus will enter Gemini, tipple its toe into your 8th house, and it's going to stay in your 8th house until, well, it's going to retrograde back into Taurus later this year, and then ultimately move back into your 8th house until 2032, 2033. Huge. I mean, huge, huge, huge. So we're seeing Neptune, who moves in for a decade, basically and a half into Aries, your 6th house. We see Uranus moving into your 8th house for about 7 years, 8 years with retrogrades potentially. We see Aquarius moving in, Pluto moving into Aquarius, your 4th house of home, for the next 20 years. These are significant shifts or opportunities for broadening the way you think and the experience that you're having on this planet. In August, both Saturn and Neptune are retrograding conjunct for the whole month. They're just hanging out, and they've been hanging out, but it gets a little tighter and a little tighter and a little tighter before Saturn moves a little deeper into Pisces. They're still in Aries right now, but that's the point why this is important, because for the whole month they're in Aries before they dip back into Pisces. So that's going to really bring a revisit of government control over our health. Absolutely. Venus and Jupiter will be in Cancer, your 9th house. This is going to be lovely. These 2 planets, for the most part, very much get along. Both rule money and wealth and good luck and luxury and good food. I mean, when I say good food, I mean like we're going to the finest restaurants. We're drinking the finest wine. We're having the finest, media experiences when it comes to watching cinema. The film. It's really quite lovely. And having Cancer be your 9th house, they're going to be exact on the 11th of August at 13 degrees, but you'll be feeling this for about, I don't know, a couple of weeks, I think. But the tighter the orb, the more powerful Venus's energy is with Jupiter. Okay, and Jupiter's in Cancer in its exaltation, so Jupiter's even more powerful. So this is a yummy, where they come together, often. When it's in Cancer, it's just a little bit better than normal. Mars enters its detriment in Libra. Mars, your co-ruling planet. I happen to have Mars in Libra, and I've realized that one of the things that my life's mission is to be a peaceful warrior, to be my independent self, but also not to try to enroll people in my ideas, but to allow them to have their own. So Mars here is going to experience once again the feelings of me and we and how that works out, because Mars can tend to say it's a we, but it's really a me. As long as you come with me, we're a we. So there's going to be a revisit of that. Venus will enter Leo and will have an opposition with Pluto in Aquarius. Leo is your 10th house of career. Aquarius is your 4th house of home. And you could find there is something comes up during that end of August where your money, your partnerships, female aspects in your career, are in some way fighting with what your obligations at home, work and home obligations may have a little bit of a challenge. In September, we will have our second eclipse season. The first eclipse in the Pisces energy, and that will be a full moon lunar eclipse. And then we will have a new moon solar eclipse in Virgo, the first one of the new moons on the Virgo axis. I'll be doing separate videos for these. Saturn will re-enter Pisces in September, and it won't be back for, at least 24 to 30 years, depending on retrograde. So it's going to really be fine-tuning the structure that it is built with its divinity and its creativity. My soul's connection and my connection to the artist within. And everybody has an artist within. I don't care how cerebral you are. You could be artistic with your brain. You just have to put your perspective that direction. We see your Saturn re-enters Pisces, and then we see Uranus retrograde from 1 degree Gemini into to 27 degrees Taurus. Taurus is your 7th house of partnerships. You've been experiencing that for quite some time, as I said. And that this will really sort of, I think Uranus is going to start to have a moment where Uranus is saying, if we don't move into the future, we might have to leave the past behind. And I know that sounds kind of contrary, but if you think about it long enough, you'll get what I'm saying. Uranus is done being stuck in a history of some kind. It wants to turn it upside down. So it's going to revisit it, extract whatever wisdom, whatever contributes to the 2.0 version, as wisdom tends to do. And that's what we extract from our traumas. We never release them. They don't go away. We can only extract wisdom from them, which gives us choices, and choices give us a new experience. So that's very, very powerful. In October, Jupiter in Cancer in its exaltation will make a trine to Saturn retrograde in Pisces. This is where we see the benefit of the squares these two planets had been making for the last couple of years as they went through their various signs. They were constantly squaring each other. Now we see this harmonious aspect. And with Saturn in Pisces, there's just this feeling of my soul's history is coming into a place of reconciliation, because Pisces is all about the divine, all about the spiritual. I mean, it's the spiritual, but it's also the spiritual. And so is Jupiter. And Jupiter actually co-rules Pisces. So this is going to be lovely. And we're going to experience this twice before the end of the year. Neptune will retrograde back into Pisces in October, and again, conjunct Saturn. Neptune is only going to go back to 29 degrees, so it's retrograding so slowly from the 2 degrees of Aries back over the world axis at 0 degrees of Aries, and then hovering at that master number 29 degrees of Pisces. So this is, and not coming back for many years. For at least 164 years, it will not be back in its home of Pisces. So Neptune is embarking upon basically the fool's journey around the Zodiac. And again, trying to infuse a sense of the divine into each house as it goes. Saturn, oh, I'm sorry. Pluto goes direct in Aquarius in October at 1 degree. It's been hovering again between 3 and 1 degrees of Aquarius. This is not just affecting the Aquarian energy, but it's been squaring the Scorpio energy. So there's been something tense going on here. And again, depending upon what planets are in your first house of Scorpio or any of the other fixed signs, Pluto will be making aspects to that and bringing up an underbelly. And if it's toxic, it's going to have to go. That's just how Pluto rolls. You know, you're a Scorpio. November, your birthday month, will see Mercury's last retrograde of the year. It will retrograde from 6 degrees of Sagittarius to 20 degrees of Scorpio for most of the month. That's November 9th to the 29th. Jupiter will retrograde 25 degrees of Cancer to 15 degrees of Cancer. That will happen from November 11th, 2025, all the way to March 11th, 2026. And Saturn will go direct at 25 degrees of Pisces on November 28th. Now, again, Saturn and Neptune are only 4 degrees apart for the whole year. That's the most they're away from each other. They're very close. And this is a significant energy for all of us. But for you, the concentration is in your 5th and 6th house. So be mindful. And if you are of childbearing years, Scorpio, and you want to have a child, be very discerning with the counsel you get from others, because I think there's an intuitive knowing, and you could find things work out way better listening to yourself than listening to outside influences that stoke fear. All right, now let's go to December, the end of the year. Jupiter is now retrograde and making a trine to Saturn for the second time. This is lovely, lovely, lovely. Again, Saturn is in Pisces and Jupiter is in Cancer, and they are supporting and bringing in energies that make me feel the trust of my faith, the trust of what I've endeavored, the trust of my transition, the epiphanies I've had over the year. This is very good for enduring energies, for expansion over the long period of time, not just experiencing it for a moment. And finally, we will see Neptune go direct at 29 degrees of Pisces on the December 10th. And Pisces, it'll pretty much stay in Pisces for the rest of the year before it moves into Aries and stays there for, what was that again? 14 potential years. That's a very, very long time. All right, my Scorpios, those are the highlights for 2025. Be sure to check out your monthlies. We do a monthly horoscope for you all. We do a monthly love and money tarot card reading for you. And be sure to check out your January 2025 if you haven't already, because we're going to get into more detail about how the year starts. And it starts off with that opposition between your 2 ruling planets. All right. We'll see you soon. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because tons and tons of information is going to come out. Some good staples too, like, what your moon sign means and what your Venus means. So be sure to stay tuned. All right, we'll see you soon.